Hello everyone, I am Vera. The story we're watching today's scumbag, Green Tea Bitch. Vicious sister, in-law. Don't worry, let Gu Yunshu teach you how to use wisdom and acting skills to play them in the palm of your hand. Press and hold to like. Let's start the main feature. After the news came that my husband died in battle, His Majesty, mindful of his contributions, specially sent a palace official to console me, and bestowed a grace, letting me choose between remaining a widow or returning home to remarry. But I knew that no matter what I chose, it would mean death. In my first life, I chose to remain a widow, only to be slandered for having an affair with a servant, and was confined to death according to family law. In my second life, I chose to remarry, only to be intercepted halfway by people sent by my husband Xiao Jinye, who had faked his death, thrown into a labor camp in the freezing lands, and tortured to death. As I was dying, he grabbed the corner of his robe and asked why. He only said with disgust, "You're occupying the position of the legal wife is the original sin. Only when you're dead can Yanner marry in with a proper status. What makes you worthy of comparing to her?" Only then did I realize that from the very beginning, he never intended to let me live. He wanted to use my death to make room for my concubine Dan-born younger sister. Opening my eyes again, I returned to the day when the palace official made me choose between the two. Facing the palace official who came to announce the decree, I slowly kowtowed in the direction of the imperial city, my voice clear and firm. This subject's wife is willing to remain chaste for her late husband Xiao Jinye, and never remarry for life. Without waiting for the inner court official to nod, I kowtowed again, my words resounding. Furthermore, this subject's wife dares to humbly beseech your majesty to issue an edict, to erect a chastity memorial arch for this subject's wife, to honor the Xiao family's reputation and demonstrate your majesty's boundless imperial grace. This time, I chose to use an imperial edict to completely seal Xiao Jinye's death as fact. Living this life again, chastity and reputation are nothing but fleeting clouds to me. I only want him dead. I want Xiao Jinye to forever be nothing more than a memorial tablet, in an empty tomb, a dead man. There was precedent from the previous dynasty, erecting chastity memorial arches for the widows of fallen soldiers, requiring them to remain chaste for life, using this to inspire morale and utterly defeat enemy forces. The ruler of the previous dynasty was even recorded in history books for this, his name preserved through the ages. So when the inner court official reported my request, the emperor was indeed greatly pleased. The imperial decree came. I grant your request. The memorial arch will be constructed and completed soon. When that time comes, I shall further confer upon you the title of first-rank imperial consort, and from then on, no one in the entire Xiao family will dare slight you. Having successfully obtained the emperor's promise, I did not let down my guard, because this was only the first step. Though the emperor's heart was swayed, the imperial edict had not yet been issued. Everything could still change. Right now, the most urgent matter was to spread the news throughout the capital that Xiao Jinye died in battle, and that the emperor had graciously permitted me to remain chaste for him. Only by binding Xiao Jinye's death together with the emperor's honor could I completely seal his fate. There were plenty of generals in the court, but opportunities for the emperor to leave his name in history were few and far between. So, once the memorial arch is erected, if Xiao Jinye dares to come back alive, that would be obstructing the emperor's legacy in history. That would be deceiving the sovereign. That would be slapping the emperor in the face. If he lives, it is a capital offense. But just as I walked out of the manor gates, I was stopped by my half-din sister Guyonyan's sister. She hurried forward, grabbing my sleeve, her eyes full of urgency and concern. "I heard people came from the palace. Is it about brother Dan and Zanlaw? You must take care of yourself." She scrutinized my expression carefully, the probing intent in her words quite obvious. "Now that brother Dan and Zanlaw is gone, sister, in the future, do you have any plans?" Seeing her concerned appearance, I suddenly felt a chill. In my first life, I was deceived by this sincere and earnest act of hers. With one sentence, father values family reputation above all. If you remarry, the Gu family will never tolerate you. She completely extinguished my thoughts of remarrying. I thought she meant well at the time, not knowing she had long been secretly involved with Xiao Jinya, Li wanting to get rid of me as quickly as possible. On the day of Xiao Jinya's funeral, she drugged me with a cup of medicated wine, framed me for having an affair, and was the first to propose using family law against me. I didn't understand. I treated her like a real sister, protected her at every turn, never looked down on her in the slightest due to the distinction between legitimate and concubines and born children. Why did she have to harm me like this? The Gu Yunyan of that time looked at me with a cold smile. Your very existence is a mistake. You occupy the position of legitimate daughter, occupy the position of the general's legal wife, while I can only be casually married off to some minor general. Only when you're dead can I live a better life. In that dark and endless confinement, I died after suffering every torture. Only in that moment did I understand. The sister I raised with my own hands, the one I always protected behind me, was an ungrateful wolf I could never tame. At this moment, that familiar chill strikes again. I look at this face before me written all over with concern and curl my lips in a cold sneer, and Gu Yunyan is still acting. She rushes before me, tightly grabs my hands, and cries like pear blossoms in rain. Sister, I know losing your husband is hard to bear, but sister, you absolutely cannot remarry. If you remarry, with father's nature of valuing family reputation above all else, he absolutely won't tolerate you. Hearing this speech that doesn't differ one bit from my previous life, I sneer inwardly. Insolent. I violently shake off her hand and slap her across the face. Gu Yunyan freezes in place, caught completely off guard, a trace of shock flashing in her eyes. She opens her mouth wanting to say something more, but I don't give her the chance at all. My husband died serving the country. As his widow, I feel deeply honored. Father and the Giyu family will surely be proud of me too. I raise my voice to ensure everyone around can hear. How nice for you, standing here saying all these ambiguous things, trying to drive a wedge between me and father, painting father as some petty villain who can't tolerate his daughter being widowed. Gu Yunyan, is this how the Gu family taught you? My words rang out forcefully, immediately drawing quite a crowd of onlookers. The news of Xiao Jinye's death in battle had long since spread, and now hearing this, everyone began discussing amongst themselves. Minister Gu is the most reasonable man. How could he not tolerate the widow of a warrior who sacrificed himself for the country? Madam Xiao, you must not listen to such divisive words and hurt the bond between father and daughter. Whose family is this woman from? She speaks with such poor judgment. You all. Gu Yunyan's face flushed red from the criticism, unable to maintain her earlier composure any longer. Amidst the crowd's condemnation, she turned and left in embarrassment. I didn't stop her, because there would be plenty of opportunities to deal with her. And right now, these indignant citizens on the street were the perfect opportunity to completely solidify the news of Xiao Jinye's death. I turned to face the crowd and nodded slightly. Thank you all for speaking up for justice, though my heart bleeds like a knife wound at my husband's sacrifice for the country. I also feel deeply honored by his loyalty and valor. Fortunately, His Majesty in his sagacity has permitted me to remain chaste for him for the rest of my life. My voice trembled slightly, yet every word carried clearly throughout the scene. From this day forward, in life I am a person of the Xiao family. In death I am a ghost of the Xiao family. I will never remarry in this lifetime. As the words fell, a wave of sighs immediately rose from the crowd. His Majesty has already issued an edict to erect a memorial archway. General Xiao's death for the country is set in stone. General Xiao died heroically in battle. Truly a martyr of our great Liang, madam. Please accept my condolences. Madam is willing to remain chaste for life. Such loyalty is truly admirable. From now on, Whoever dares to disrespect Madame Xiao will be an enemy of the millions of people of Great Liang. Amid the sighs and support of the crowd, I lowered my head to hide the cold glint in my eyes. This news about me keeping my chastity for Xiao Jinye would soon spread throughout the capital with the crowd, but relying solely on word of mouth wasn't fast enough or stable enough. I had to add more fuel to the fire, to make the news of Xiao Jinye's death spread even wider and become an unquestionable fact throughout the entire capital. If he wanted to keep his position as general, he would have no choice but to return. But once he returned, it would be a path to his own death. The crime of deceiving the emperor. He couldn't bear it. The condemnation of all people. He couldn't withstand it. Thinking this, I stepped through the Xiao family's main gate. Suddenly, a basin of cold water splashed toward me. Accompanying it was a young girl's shrill voice. "Gu Yunchu, me brother is already dead. There is no place for you in the Xiao family. If you know what is good for you, pack your things and get out right now." This jarring abuse was exactly the same as in the second life. Back then, Xiao Qiluo not only brought her clan elders to my door daily to humiliate me, but also secretly ordered servants to withhold my allowance, and allowed the maids and old servants to shove and beat me. She even threw my clothes out of my room in front of all the household servants, mocking me shrilly. A jinx who killed her husband. How dare you occupy the main wife's quarters? The painful memory of being framed by the Xiao family in my first life was still fresh before my eyes. Now suffering such humiliation again, my heart turned cold in the end, and I chose to remarry. Who knew this was all a trap set by the siblings? In my second life, the moment my bridal sedan left the Xiao family gate, he was abducted by men sent by the resurrected Xiao Jinye, and thrown into a hellish labor camp with no light of day. He watched with his own eyes as I suffered inhuman torture and was ground to death alive. I still remember the disgusted look in his eyes when he stood before me. You're occupying the position of legitimate wife is the original sin. Only when you're dead can Yanner marry in with proper status. And Xiao Qiluo knew all along that her brother was still alive. She was not only an accomplice, but during those days when I was tortured to death, she often came to the labor camp wearing my most treasured pearl hairpin, laughing lightly through the bars. "Sister Zan and Zan Law, the way you look now, you truly deserve it." Meanwhile, Xiao Jinye came back from the dead, claiming there was a mistake in the military report. Since the news of his death hadn't spread widely, he successfully obtained the emperor's forgiveness and took my half-Dan sister as his wife. He used my bones to pave the way for his beloved, used my blood to add glory to their wedding. "How dare you!" I dodged to the side to avoid the cold water and shouted sternly. Xiao Qiluo clearly didn't expect me to fight back. In the past, I had spoiled her rotten, giving her whatever she wanted, never letting her suffer the slightest grievance. Now seeing me actually resist, she immediately flew into a rage. "You dare to dodge?" As she spoke, she lunged forward to grab my hair, but I grabbed her wrist with my hand and dragged her toward the ancestral hall. "Today, I'll teach you what rules mean." In the ancestral hall, the Xiao family elders were all gathered. I threw the struggling Xiao Qiluo in front of everyone, shocking all present. "Lady Gu, what are you doing?" the clan head asked in a stern voice. Xiao Qiluo broke free from my grip and pointed at me, cursing, "Gu Yunchu, you crazy woman, have you lost your mind? How dare you lay hands on me? I'll sell you to the filthiest slave camp and make you suffer a fate worse than death for the rest of your life." Despised by thousands. I let out a cold laugh, completely unfazed. In the previous 2 lives, I'd heard far more insults than this. Much worse than this. I turned to face the clan elders gathered in the ancestral hall, my gaze slowly sweeping over everyone's solemn expressions. The glory of the Xiao clan now rests entirely on Xiao Jinye alone. Now that news of his death in battle has arrived, these people have gathered here simply because they're worried about the family's bleak future. Since that is the case, I might as well show them another path. "Clan leader, esteemed elders." My voice was clear, carrying just the right amount of grief. Though my husband has already died for the country, the glory of the Xiao family absolutely cannot decline like this. I have already petitioned His Majesty to erect a chastity memorial arch in my honor. As long as this arch stands, as long as I, Gu Yun Chu, am still here, the world will forever remember that the Shao family produced a general who sacrificed himself for the country, that the Shao clan is full of loyal martyrs. These words completely bound my own life. Death, honor, and disgrace together with the Shao family's future. As long as I live, I am the living monument to the Shao family's loyalty. If I were forced to leave or humiliated, the Shao family would not only lose face, but would also bear the infamy of mistreating a martyr's widow. But Shao Qiluo shrilly interrupted from the side. What memorial arch? My brother is dead. You should get the hell out of the Shao family. What does the Shao family's glory have to do with an outsider like you? I didn't acknowledge her. My gaze still locked on the clan leader, my tone gentle yet unquestionable. Clan leader, as a mere woman, I truly cannot control my willful and unruly sister Dan Inzan Law. But as the head of the family, can you really just stand by and watch her insult the widow of a general who died for his country, letting the entire Shao family become the laughingstock of the capital? The clan leader furrowed his brows, his fingertips lightly tapping the back of his chair. He naturally understood the stakes. Protecting me meant protecting the Shao family's last shred of dignity. But if he indulged Shao Qiluo's nonsense, the entire family's reputation would be ruined. Shao Qiluo? He finally shouted sternly, running your mouth without restraint, showing no respect for hierarchy. Drag her away to reflect on her mistakes in solitude. Clan leader, how can you listen to her? Before she could finish, the servants had already efficiently gagged her mouth and forcibly dragged her away. There were many ways to deal with Shao Qiluo, but using these clan elders was the most effortless. I had no time to waste on her. The Chastity Memorial Arch was the top priority. Thank you, clan leader, for upholding justice. I bowed slightly and smoothly proposed the next step of my plan. My husband died for his country, and my heart is filled with unbearable grief. For this final funeral rite, we should hold a grand ceremony, erect a cenotaph for him, and let all under heaven pay their respects. What do you think? Also regarding His Majesty's edict, I ask that the clan leader keep it confidential for now. When the funeral takes place, the palace will naturally send someone. I sighed, feigning a trace of expectation. After all, as long as the imperial edict hasn't left the palace, if by chance the news is wrong, and my husband isn't dead. The clan leader shook his head, looking at me with some pity. You still care too much about the marital bond. If the imperial edict comes down and your husband is still alive, that would be the crime of deceiving the emperor. And then, he fell silent for a long while, as if he couldn't bear to say the last sentence. But I lowered my head and laughed coldly. What I wanted was exactly this statement from the clan leader. After all, the imperial edict was announced publicly. The more grand this funeral, the more real Shao Jinye's death had to be. And what I wanted was for everyone to understand, Shao Jinye was already, and had to be, a dead man. Afterwards, I naturally took over full responsibility for hosting Shao Jinye's funeral affairs, throwing myself wholeheartedly into the project of building his cenotaph. I wanted to make this tomb a monument for all of the capital to remember the meritorious deeds of the nation, and protecting General Shao Jinye. I hired the best craftsmen in the capital, selected the most expensive golden Zan thread Nanmu wood, and even personally participated in reviewing the design drawings of the ancestral hall. Every detail went through my careful deliberation. I had all of Shao Jinye's achievements from his lifetime, whether real or carefully embellished by me, carved onto stone tablets, and had people recite them day and night. Soon, the entire capital was saying, General Shao has died. But Lady Shao's love for her husband runs so deep that she is willing to spend all her family wealth just to make his glorious name live on forever. The news of Shao Jinye's death and my virtuous reputation spread like wildfire. And I deliberately chose the day of Xiao Jinye's official funeral to be the same day as the completion of the chastity memorial arch bestowed by the emperor. General Xiao Jinye sacrificed himself for the country. His wife Lady Guiyu is virtuous and gentle, steadfast and resolute, truly a model for women. The clan leader's voice echoed in the wind. I stood with lowered head beside the coffin, holding a handkerchief to wipe my tears, but my gaze was firmly locked on the cenotaph that was about to be completed. Just as the stone tablet was about to be set in place, "Stop!" My concubine, Zan-born younger sister Gu Yunyan rushed out from the crowd, shouting hoarsely, "General Xiao isn't dead at all. This cenotaph cannot be erected." I slowly raised my eyes, the depths calm as a cold pool. "What nonsense are you spouting, sister?" "My husband died on the battlefield, confirmed personally by His Majesty in the military report. With such words now, are you questioning the emperor?" I wouldn't dare. Gu Yunyan was momentarily at a loss for words, but still struggled to say, "But sister brother Zan is really still alive. You can't do this. How did you come to know this?" I stepped forward, my voice suddenly turning severe. If my husband truly survived, the first to know should be His Majesty, and next should be me, his wife. When is it an outsider like you's turn to bring such news? I looked around at everyone, each word cutting to the heart. Now that my husband's body is barely cold, you're here spreading rumors. Are you trying to ruin the reputation of my general's manor? Or do you want the whole world to think that you had some shameful entanglement with my husband? These words were like a boulder dropped into water, instantly stirring up 1,000 waves. That is right. The news of General Xiao's death in service was sent to the capital by 800 Zan-Li Express. How could it be false? Even His Majesty has made the final judgment. How would she, a mere boudoir maiden, know the inside story? Making such a scene at the general's funeral? Her intentions are condemnable? Get out! Amidst the chorus of rebukes, Gu Yunyan's face turned deathly pale as she stumbled backward repeatedly. Yet she still kept saying, "Wait a little longer, wait a little longer, he'll be back soon." But the common people below wouldn't listen to her excuses, and even began physically driving her away. As it turns out, everything I've done these past days has finally paid off. Everyone knows that Xiao Jinye is dead, and that he and I were a deeply devoted couple. So at this moment, when Gu Yunyan stands up and says Xiao Jinye isn't dead, no one will believe her. It will only provoke public outrage. I took a step forward, staring coldly at her. "Summon," I ordered coldly. "Throw her out." Just as I was thinking of having the clan leader proceed with erecting the cenotaph, a man wearing a conical hat pushed through the crowd, reached up to remove his hat, and shouted at me, "Gu Yanshifei, you venomous woman! This general isn't dead yet. Who are you erecting this cenotaph for? Who are you cursing?" Seeing Shifeoji Fei step forward, I let out a cold laugh. Perfect. He finally couldn't help but show himself. However, I didn't answer him. Instead, I looked toward the end of the street, waiting. Imperial edict has arrived. A loud shout suddenly rang out, and the sound of horse hooves grew from distant to near. The edict Dan-bearing eunuch held a bright yellow scroll and proclaimed loudly, "The nation Zan protecting General Shifeoji Fei loyally sacrificed himself for the country, and I am deeply pained. I hereby bestow a cenotaph to be buried in the loyal martyr's mausoleum. His wife, Lady Jifei, is commendably virtuous and chaste. A memorial arch shall be erected immediately in her honor." The sound of the imperial edict gin across all directions. Xfeoj Fei's expression froze, his face suddenly turning deathly pale. I knelt down facing the wind, my voice clear and firm. "This subject's wife receives the edict, and thanks His Majesty for vindicating my deceased husband." My voice pierced through the noise, clearly reaching the ears of everyone present. The edict Dan-bearing eunuch solemnly handed that bright yellow imperial edict into my hands. Having completed his mission, he turned to leave. But I stepped forward. gave a slight curtsy, and said, "Eunuch, please wait. This subject's wife has one more matter, and humbly asks you to relay it to His Majesty." The eunuch paused in his steps and looked at me with some surprise. But seeing my solemn expression, not like ordinary pleasantries, he nodded and stepped aside for the moment. My gaze passed through layers of the crowd, finally settling on that man wearing a conical hat, whose face had now turned ashen, Xiao Jinye. This man who had made me suffer endless torment through 2 lifetimes. This man who had secretly carried on an affair with my concubine's unborn younger sister, and was bent on bringing about my death. I faced him directly, my voice clearly reaching everyone present. "You keep saying you are Xiao Jinye, that I am a venomous woman who cursed you. Then in front of all these townsfolk, in front of His Majesty's imperial envoy, tell everyone clearly, are you, or are you not, Xiao Jinye?" This question was like a boulder thrown into boiling water, instantly stirring up tremendous waves. How is that possible? The general already died in battle. Exactly. The imperial edict has been issued. Could His Majesty possibly be mistaken? This person is so audacious, daring to impersonate General Xiao. But looking at his appearance, he really does resemble the General Xiao we saw before he went to war by about 80 or 90%. What good is resemblance? The world is vast and full of strange things. The key point is the imperial edict is right here. His Majesty's golden words are law. How could they be false? The crowd buzzed with discussion, their gazes filled with shock, anger, speculation, and uncertainty sweeping back and forth between Xiao Jinye and the imperial edict. Some firmly believed that the imperial authority represented by the edict was inviolable, while others were swayed by Xiao Jinye's appearance and began to waver. The scene fell into a strange standoff, with everyone's focus concentrated on Xiao Jinye's hesitant face. His complexion kept changing. His lips moved, but he couldn't produce a single clear syllable. I know why he is struggling, because he stepped forward at that time to stop me from erecting a cenotaph for him. But he never expected that not only would I erect a cenotaph for him, I also requested His Majesty to establish a chastity memorial arch. All of this directly nailed him to the title of died in battle. How exquisite his original plan was, borrowing the guise of dying in battle, secretly returning to the capital, first getting rid of me, his legitimate wife, under the name of corrupting womanly virtue. Then he would rise from the dead, making up some excuse like mistaken military reporter lucky escape. By then, even if the emperor was furious, considering his past military achievements and family influence, at most it would just be a salary penalty, a minor punishment as a warning. And I would have already become a criminal woman nailed to the pillar of shame, and my father would never say a word in my defense. He, Xiao Jinye, could continue being his great general, then naturally marry his beloved Gu Yunyan. But for all his scheming, he never calculated that I would make this death of his so grand and sensational that the entire city would know. He didn't expect I would be so deeply devoted and righteous, willing to spend the family fortune to give him a grand funeral, erect a cenotaph, and spread his name of loyalty and valor until everyone knew of it. Even less did he expect that I would so quickly obtain this imperial edict that nailed down his martyrdom for the country. Compared to getting rid of me, what he fears more is the crime of deceiving the emperor. When the news of Xiao Jinye's death in battle was known only to a few, he could still maneuver and salvage the situation. But now, all the people in the city know. His Majesty's edict has been issued, proclaiming to the world that he, Xiao Jinye, has already died loyally for the country. If he admits now that he is still alive, that would be blatant deception of the emperor. It would be making a fool of the sovereign, showing contempt for imperial authority. This offense is enough to result in the confiscation of property and extermination of the entire clan, far beyond what can be compared to dealing with one wife. That moment of bewilderment when he heard the imperial edict, I caught it all. But he is Xiao Jinye after all, a general for 2 lifetimes, deeply cunning, and soon forcibly composed himself. But how could I give him a chance to catch his breath? The wind swept up the plain white morning clothes, and facing his uncertain and suspicious gaze, he spoke again. Are you, or are you not, Xiao Jinyi? Admit it? That would be admitting to deceiving the emperor, a dead end. Deny it. Then, what was the point of all his painstaking scheming and taking the risk to appear in person? Could it be just to watch me accept the imperial decree with gratitude and live on peacefully in glory as a widow, receiving a chastity memorial arch? Then how would he explain this to Gu Yunyan, who is waiting in the shadows? How would he seize back control of the general's manor? Would he have to live from now on as a nameless vagrant, hiding here and there? Speak up. I dare to let him choose for himself, but does he dare, in front of the imperial edict and the eunuch representing the emperor, to admit that he, this dead man, is still alive? Xiao Jinye's fists quietly clenched at his sides, his knuckles turning white from the force. He looked at me, his eyes filled with the most complex emotions. He had schemed against me for 2 lifetimes, yet never imagined I would turn the tables on him in such a way. The air seemed to freeze, everyone waiting for his answer. General, say something. Tell them you are Xiao Jinye. You're not dead, say it quickly. My concubine Zanborn sister, Gu Yunyan, could no longer contain herself. She grabbed Xiao Jinye's sleeve, her voice thick with tears, urgent and desperate. I watched coldly from the sidelines, understanding everything in my heart. I knew this concubine Zanborn sister all too well. In her secret affair with Xiao Jinye, was it really the man himself she valued? What she valued was his illustrious reputation as the protector general, the honored status of being his legitimate wife, the infinite glory within easy reach. She could endure temporary concealment, but absolutely could not accept permanent obscurity. Now, if Xiao Jinye tacitly accepted his deceased identity, then he would be a dead soul who couldn't see the light of day. Even if she, Gu Yunyan, followed him, she could only hide and skulk around, and might even be implicated as a woman who deceived the emperor. This was worlds apart from the phoenix crown and sad cape she dreamed of, with servants attending her front and back. How could she be willing to accept this? Gu Yunyan's tug and shout were like pouring a ladle of cold water into a pot of boiling oil, making the already chaotic scene even more out of control. That is right, say something. Real or fake, give us a straight answer. Could it be he is really a fake and doesn't dare to admit it? The voices of discussion surged toward Xiao Jinye like a tide. His face was ashen, his lips pressed into a pale straight line. He naturally knew the consequences of admitting it. That would be eternal damnation. But to deny it, looking at Gu Yunyan beside him, tears streaming down her face and eyes full of expectation, feeling the increasingly intense questioning gazes around him. His pride as a general, the plan he had laid out for so long, were they to be completely shattered at this moment by me, a woman he had never even taken seriously? Watching him so indecisive and caught in a dilemma, the cold laugh in my heart nearly spilled from the corners of my lips. Xiao Jinye. Oh, Xiao Jinye. When you framed me in my past life, how decisive and ruthless you were. How is it that when things come to a head and you need to step up, you become like a gourd with a sawed Xanoff mouth, unable to even get a complete sentence out? Since you can't make this decision, then how about I give you a hand, and nail down this identity of being dead even more firmly for you? I slowly turned around, directing my gaze toward the clan leader nearby, who had long been struck dumb with shock by these successive upheavals. He was advanced in years, having lived his whole life cautiously and timidly. When had he ever experienced such a situation involving imperial authority and the grave crime of deceiving the emperor? At this moment, he was probably already completely at a loss. I walked before him, gave a slight curtsy, and deliberately infused my voice with a few traces of weakness and confusion, following extreme grief. Clan leader, ever since I learned of my late husband's tragic news, I have been utterly devastated with grief. Now my eyes are truly too dim to see clearly or distinguish properly. I raised my hand, gently pressing the corner of my sleeve against the corner of my eyes where there were no tears, and said, I humbly ask the clan leader, you are elderly, highly respected, and experienced, to help me identify whether the person before us is or is not my poor late husband. With that, I stepped aside to let the clan leader come forward. Before he took a step, I lowered my voice and, in a tone only the two of us could hear clearly, reminded him with each word distinct. Clan leader, you must look very carefully and absolutely must not mistake what you see. I paused for a moment, my gaze pointedly sweeping over that bright yellow imperial edict and the eunuch standing nearby with hands hanging at his sides. Then continued in a low voice. I also ask the clan leader to think carefully. If this person really is Xiao Jinyi, then he is clearly alive, yet His Majesty has already issued an edict declaring him died for his country. This would be an outright crime of deceiving the emperor. Deceiving the emperor? What kind of crime that is I don't need to repeat, do I? At the very least, Xiao Jinyi alone would lose his head, and all those military merits he has earned. His Majesty would write off with a single stroke. The future prospects of our entire clan would be destroyed. I watched the fine beads of sweat seeping from the clan leader's forehead, knowing he had already thought through the stakes clearly. But I didn't give him a chance to catch his breath, continuing. At worst, that could mean the extermination of 9 generations of kinsmen. When that time comes, forget about future prospects and wealth. Whether we can even keep our heads on our shoulders would be hard to say. As my words fell, the clan leader's body swayed almost imperceptibly, his complexion already deathly pale. I shifted my tone, my voice becoming more reassuring. On the other hand, if he is not Xiao Jinyi, but just some madman who happens to look similar, or summoning with ulterior motives brought in to impersonate him with ill intentions, then everything will proceed as I said before. His Majesty will still remember that our Xiao family produced a loyal martyr who died for the country. Our Xiao family will still be a gate of loyal martyrs, with unlimited glory and stable security. This analysis of pros and cons was clear, cold, and struck right at the vital point. I clearly and plainly placed the heavy burden of the family's survival and the lives of the entire clan on the patriarch's shoulders. The patriarch's breathing became heavy. He looked at me, his eyes gradually becoming clear. Under everyone's gaze, the patriarch took a deep breath and walked step by step to stand before Xiao Jinyi. When Xiao Jinyi saw the patriarch coming over, he opened his mouth, just about to speak. Smack! The patriarch raised his hand and gave him a resounding slap, directly knocking his face to the side. What kind of madman are you, daring to impersonate a hero of my Xiao family? The patriarch's voice was loud and carried unquestionable authority. My Xiao family's son Xiao Jinyi died for the country. His bones not yet cold yet. You dare to use his name here as an impostor and defile his reputation. As soon as these words came out, sounds of relief immediately rose from all around. The common people started discussing among themselves. I knew it was fake. The patriarch himself denied it, so there is definitely no mistake. This person is too despicable, actually impersonating a deceased general. Gu Yunyan stood to the side, stamping her feet anxiously, unable to hold back from speaking. Clan leader, he clearly is. Shut up! The clan leader sternly cut her off. You're an outsider. What right do you have to interfere in the Xiao family's affairs? Get lost! Gu Yunyan's face turned deathly pale from the scolding, biting her lip and not daring to speak again. Xiao Jinyi turned his head, his eyes dark and vicious as he stared at the clan leader, seemingly still wanting to argue. The clan leader didn't give him a chance at all, directly ordering the servants behind him. Tie up this impostor lunatic for me, gag his mouth, and lock him in the dark room. Several servants rushed forward and in just a few moves had Xiao Jinyi tied up tightly, even stuffing his mouth with cloth strips. As he was being dragged away, Xiao Jinyi stared at me with deadly intensity, the venomous hatred in his eyes almost overflowing. I calmly watched all of this, and only after Xiao Jinyi was taken away, Did I walk before the eunuch who delivered the imperial decree and bowed slightly? Eunuch, as you've witnessed, today someone actually had the audacity to impersonate my late husband. For such a lunatic, please allow our Shao family to handle this ourselves, and properly interrogate him to see if there is anyone behind him pulling the strings. The eunuch nodded. Madam speaks reasonably. For such a minor matter, the Shao family can handle it themselves. This servant will return to the palace to report now. Seeing off the eunuch, he gazed in the direction Xiao Jinye was dragged away, a trace of coldness emerging at the corner of my mouth. Since the person has fallen into my hands, naturally I'm going to give him proper hospitality, making him repay every single debt he owes me from his past and present lives. Yes, queen energy at full blast. Gu Yunchu's performance in this segment is straight up legendary. She uses her weak woman identity to the extreme, advancing by retreating, binding the fate of an entire clan, the futures of a group of elders, and even the emperor's dignity to her own lie. And then, with just a look and a few words, she scares the clan leader into a cold sweat, making him obediently become her revenge enforcer sisters. This is top-tier strategic reverse manipulation. Gu Yunchu precisely grasped the clan leader's weaknesses and concerns, turning what was originally a truth beneficial to him personally into a Pandora's box that could destroy the entire clan. This teaches us never to underestimate any woman pushed to the brink. Their wisdom and ruthlessness can exceed your imagination. One by one. Seeing the situation was settled, my concubine's unborn younger sister, Gu Yunyan's face turned deathly pale. While everyone's attention was still on the clan leader and the madman being dragged away, she quietly shuffled her feet, trying to blend into the crowd and slip away. Stop right there. My voice wasn't loud, but it made her freeze in place. I didn't even turn around, only giving a look to the trusted old maid beside me. The matron understood, and with two sturdy servants quietly approached, flanking Gu Yunyan from left and right, covering her mouth and swiftly removing her from the scene. My expression remained unchanged as I continued to preside over the rest of the ceremony. The cenotaph was successfully completed, and the Chastity Memorial Arch also began construction. Everything came to a satisfactory conclusion under the verdict that the great general who protected the nation, Xiao Jinye, loyally died for his country. After handling matters on the Xiao family's side, he ordered people to escort the bound Gu Yunyan and headed straight back to the Gu Si family. My father had already heard of today's shocking incident at the city gate and was anxiously pacing in the hall. Seeing me enter, he immediately dismissed everyone around him and urgently asked in a low voice, "Yunchu, tell me the truth. Was that person today actually Jinye or not?" I looked at him and answered calmly, "Father, whether he is or isn't, it is impossible for him to be now. Xiao Jinye has already died in battle. This was determined by His Majesty's own words, and the imperial edict is still in my hands. He must be the great general who protected the nation and died in battle." Father was such a shrewd person that he instantly understood the implications behind my words and the stakes involved. His eyes flickered a few times. He let out a long sigh, and then, as if he had made up his mind, his tone became steady. "You're right. The dead cannot come back to life, and the living must always look forward." He pondered for a moment, then said, "You are now the general's widow, with a noble status, but after all, you have no sons, which will inevitably be lonely. I will select a smart and clever child from the clan to adopt under your name, to continue the Shao family lineage, and give you someone to rely on in the future." I understand what father means. Once I adopt a child, I'll be able to legitimately control the resources of the general's residence and the inheritance left by Xiao Jinye in my capacity as the general's widow and the child's guardian, and can comfortably lie back and enjoy the honor earned from the merit book that Xiao Jinye exchanged with his death in battle. I immediately bowed slightly, assuming a grateful posture. "Your daughter thanks father for planning on my behalf. We are family after all, connected by blood. In the future, this child will need to rely heavily on father's guidance to become talented and live up to his father's illustrious name. Hearing me mention family and future guidance of the child, a genuine smile appeared on father's face. This meant that I acknowledged and would maintain the relationship between the Gyutyu family and the general's residence, so he and even the entire Gyutyu family could continue to benefit from it. He nodded repeatedly. Naturally, I will certainly do my utmost. With the main business settled, the atmosphere relaxed. Only then did I, as if just remembering something, mention casually, "Oh right, father. For some reason, younger sister Yunyan appeared at the city gate today. Her words and actions were somewhat improper. I was worried she might cause gossip, so I've already brought her back. What do you think?" Father is in a good mood right now, and has just reached a consensus with me. The fate of a concubine's daughter is immediately clear in his heart. He waved his hand almost without thinking, his tone carrying a trace of irritation. "Since you brought her back, you handle it. I'll talk to her aunt." This is exactly what I was waiting for him to say. "Yes, I understand. Father." I curtsied and turned to exit the hall. Arriving at the dark room in the side courtyard, Gu Yunyan was tied hand and foot with cloth stuffed in her mouth, looking at me in terror. I walked up to her, slowly crouched down, reached out to pinch her chin, forcing her to lift her head and meet my gaze. Looking at the tears brimming in her eyes and the boundless fear, I smiled gently. "Little sister, don't be afraid." My voice was very gentle, but my eyes cold as frost. "Big sister will take good care of you," as expected of our Yunchu with this reverse power play. Vera, even from outside the screen, I can feel that top-tier oppressive pressure that makes your scalp tingle. Gu Yunyan had always thought in her previous 2 lives that she was a master manipulator, able to play both the scumbag and her own father like puppets. But Yunchu was now teaching her a lesson. When you've lost all your backing, in the face of true power crushing down on you, you don't even qualify to be a manipulator. Just like that old saying goes, karma never misses an address. After returning to the manor, I ordered people to drag the constantly struggling, terror-filled Gu Yunyan into the abandoned dungeon of the general's manor. 2 people were already locked in the dungeon, Xiao Jinye and his sister Xiao Chiluo. Xiao Chiluo had clear handprints on her face, curled up in a corner. It seemed that before I arrived, Xiao Jinye had already vented all his resentment and failure on this good sister of his. Xiao Jinye had been sitting dejectedly on a pile of hay, but upon seeing me, as if grasping at a last straw, he suddenly rushed to the cell door, gripping the bars tightly with both hands. Yun Chu, listen to me." His voice was hoarse, carrying unprecedented pleading. "We've been husband and wife for years, we have feelings for each other. I was wrong, I was blinded by greed." He was breathing heavily, his eyes frantically darting between me, Gu Yunyan, and Xiao Shiluo, desperately trying to distance himself. The previous 2 lives. Yes, it was them in both previous lives. Xiao Chiluo was jealous of you. Gu Yunyan coveted wealth and status. They conspired together to harm you. I was deceived by them back then. I didn't know anything, Yun Chu. Believe me. Give me one more chance. I listened quietly until he finished speaking, then slowly curved my lips into a smile. The laughter sounded particularly clear and cold in the empty dungeon. "So, you've remembered too? How wonderful. Saves me the trouble of reminding him where exactly this blood feud between us came from. If he remained muddled and headed, my revenge would lose some of the satisfaction of settling scores fairly and squarely." I paid no attention to his subsequent pale and feeble excuses, merely waved my hand. The trusted guard following behind me immediately brought forward a tray with a bowl of pitched and black medicinal brew on it. Xiao Jinye's pupils contracted sharply, all color draining from his face. "No, Yun Chu, you can't." Aha. Miserable struggling sounds filled the entire dungeon, drowning out Gu Yunyan and Xiao Chiluo's terrified whimpers. I personally gave the order to have that bowl of specially Dan-made muting drug force Dan fed to him, then bestowed another bowl of bones and melting tendons and softening powder. After all, he was once a general with illustrious military achievements, even though he has now been declared dead. There is no guarantee that old subordinates, or those with ulterior motives, won't someday think he still has value and attempt to help him rise from the dead. Only by destroying his martial arts and turning him into a complete cripple who cannot speak or walk can I eliminate all future troubles and keep him forever under my control. The sounds of struggle went from intense to faint, finally leaving only painful wheezing gasps. I stood to the side, watching expressionlessly until everything was settled, then let out a light breath. That heavy stone that had weighed on my heart for 2 lifetimes finally seemed to loosen a bit. I ordered people to throw Xiao Jin Yi, now limp as mud with hollow eyes, back into the cell to be locked up together with Gu Yanyan and Xiao Qi Luo. Then, I instructed the jailer to gradually reduce the portions of food delivered each day. I wanted to watch them in this desperate confined space fight like dogs over scraps just to survive. After handling all this, I turned and left the dungeon, completely shutting out the darkness and screams behind me. Returning to the manor, I followed through with what my father and I had discussed and adopted a clever and sensible child from the clan. I kept him by my side, teaching him carefully, telling him that his father was a brave general who died serving the nation, and that we must carry on his legacy and bring glory to the family. Life seemed to settle into a steady rhythm from then on, peaceful and fulfilling. Later, I went to the dungeon one more time. By then, the 3 people inside had long been tortured beyond recognition by hunger and despair. Xiao Jinye was especially miserable. He couldn't move or speak, and the things he'd said back then to shirk responsibility had clearly enraged the other 2. Whether it was Gu Yunyan or Xiao Shiluo, whenever they felt resentful or couldn't snatch that pitiful bit of food, they'd take it out on him, beating and cursing him at will. He had become the lowest existence in that cage, unable even to resist. I only took one look from outside the cell door before turning to leave. There was nothing worth seeing anymore. Their ending was already set, heading toward destruction through endless mutual torment. As for me, I had more important things to do. My child was still waiting for me in the study. The future for my son and me, as well as the future of the general's manor and the Giu family, was only just beginning. The sunlight was beautiful, not to be wasted on this rotting past. And that is a wrap, besties. The story has finally reached its grand finale. After watching Gu Yunchu's epic counterattack, I let out a huge sigh of relief. It felt as refreshing as taking a big gulp of ice-cold sparkling water. A lot of times when we read rebirth stories, the female lead living a second life often goes to latch onto a thicker thigh or finds a more perfect, more doting domineering prince to save herself. But why do I feel Gu Yunchu's story is next levels? Because she gives us a bloody yet extremely satisfying advanced survival game theory lesson. In this little classroom, Vera must dig deep with everyone into several hidden pitfalls, avoiding and career-building gems. So quickly take out your little notebooks and write this down. Key point 1. Top-tier brilliance is called weaponized compliance in ancient times. What was a chastity memorial arch? It was a moral shackle around women's necks, a cannibalistic patriarchal rule. Ordinary people facing this kind of thing would either cry and resist desperately, or suffer in silence waiting to die. But what about Gu Yunchu? She couldn't beat this massive system, so she chose to fight magic with magic. She proactively embraced this rule, turning the shackle around her neck into a sword piercing straight at the scumbag's heart. You, Emperor, don't you like erecting memorial arches to show off your prosperous era? You clan elders, don't you value the family's reputation most? Fine, I'll mold myself into the perfect victim and model martyr's family, then bind all of your interests. The imperial authority's dignity, entirely to the major premise that Xiao Jinyi must die. This is just like when we encounter some unfair unspoken rules in the workplace, or in life that we can't immediately overturn. Low-level people rage helplessly, while high-level people like Yun Shu will familiarize themselves with the game rules. then use loopholes in the rules to checkmate the abuser. This is what a true strong female lead core looks like. Knowledge point 2. Recognizing the ultimate blame. Shifting face of NPD narcissistic personality disordered. Did everyone notice Xiao Jinye's final plea for mercy in the dungeon? That part was really classic. In the previous 2 lives, he was high and mighty, trampling Yunchu's life under his feet. But once he became a prisoner, what was his first reaction? It was to shift all the blame onto his sister and his lover. It was Xiao Qiluo who was jealous of you. It was Gu Yunyan who coveted wealth and status. I was deceived. This reminds me of what my professor said in a psychology class I took before. Toxic people don't have loyalties, they only have conveniences. A lot of girls in real life will also encounter this kind of scumbag, caught cheating. He'll say that woman seduced him, career not going well. He'll blame his dysfunctional family. When you meet this kind of man who frantically shifts blame and has zero sense of responsibility, the moment something goes wrong, never soften up thinking he is just confused for a moment. Today he can trample his most beloved white moonlight concubine sister under his feet to save his life. Tomorrow he can sell you out again for some other benefit. Yunshu directly serves him a bowl of mutinous drug, embodying the principle of not listening to a scumbag's sermons. Absolutely brings extreme satisfaction. Knowledge point 3. Rather than competing with other women, seize the CEO's control agency. At the end of the story, Yun Chu didn't go looking for some second spring, but instead straightforwardly adopted a child from the clan. This move was truly a killer blow. In her previous 2 lives, all her suffering came from trying to find someone to rely on in a rotten person, engaging in female competition with the concubine sister and sister-in-law over the empty title of legitimate wife. But living again, she had an epiphany. Love is illusory. Men are unreliable. Only the resources, power, and capital for making money that you hold in your hands are hard currency. Adopting a child not only shut up all the gossip, but also allowed her to legitimately take over all the political legacy and massive fortune left by Xiao Jinye. She was no longer the wife dependent on General Xiao. She herself became the true CEO of the general's mansion. Her father had to rely on her. The clan elders had to respect her. And even the emperor had to commend her. Sisters, although Gu Yunchu's story takes place in a fictional feudal era, its core is incredibly modern. It tells us that true female awakening isn't about shouting slogans or finding a different man to date. It is about no longer outsourcing your survival baseline to anyone. No matter how terrible the hand you are dealt, no matter how suffocating the low point, what we need to do is stay extremely clear-headed. Don't internally consume yourself. Don't indulge in self-moved feelings. Put away that useless savior complex. Calmly take stock of the chips in your hand. Kick out the people who hurt you, and then firmly grip the steering wheel of your life in your own hands. You are the author of your own story. So if it were you, when your concubine, born sister Gu Yunyan blocks your way and urges you don't remarry, the Gu family won't allow it. What would you do in public, I believe? She means well and silently accept it. Give her a cold face, ignore her, and walk away directly. Slap her awake and publicly expose her attempt to sow discord. Arrange a private talk and give her one last chance. Remember to tell me your answer. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next story.